The Treetops Hotel against the backdrop of Mount Kenya. It was here in 1952 that a young Princess Elizabeth climbed into her berth in the treetops as the heir to the British throne. She awoke the next day as Queen Elizabeth. These priceless lines in the visitor's book tell the story. 58 years later, her grandson, Prince William, chose Kenya as the place to get engaged to his fiancée, Kate Middleton.
It's obviously an endorsement of Kenya as a tourist destination. We see it in a very positive light because, again, after that event happened, there's been a lot of flurry of activities, including also a lot of media covering the story, with some journalists even coming to this country to follow that route that Prince William followed. And we see this culminating with the wedding in April, which is in all sense, in all aspects, a very positive endorsement of Kenya as a rich tourism destination.
The royal engagement was a fillip for Kenya, and 2010 saw the best tourism figures for 3 years. Signs of recovery from the damage of the post-election unrest in 2007. Kenya has worked hard to restore its image as a premier tourist destination, and it is reaping the rewards.
Violence and tourism never go together. So one, straight away, there's no more violence. So let's start from there. Secondly, our new constitution, we peacefully voted, and then we promulgated a new constitution. Just by the fact that we did all these things faultless is a clear indicator that, we're ready for business and we're open for business. So now everybody is visiting Kenya and you don't have to worry too hard about it. Then all the travel advisory that have been placed on Kenya have all been lifted.
We have seen that when we compare with last year, there's been a growth of about 15%. When we compare with the best performing year, which is 2007, there's about 1.8% growth. So yes, indeed, there's a substantial growth in terms of both the international arrivals and in terms of the revenue. And all things being equal, we see this year being the best performing year, God willing.
So why should one visit Kenya?
And if you look at the coastline, for example, we have 480 kilometers of a coastline from the south to the north that is just waiting for you to discover, especially for those who've never been to our beach. Then if we move on through the hinterland, then you come through the Savo East and Savo West. Again, this is a very well-known product, especially on wildlife safari, because this is the home of the man-eaters. Then come through the city. This is a bustling city, the only perhaps capital city that we know of that has a national park right next to it. Then moving on again through the hinterland, if you go to the central parts of Kenya, we have a snow-capped mountain right next to the equator. Then if you take the route to the western Kenya, you have the great scenic views of Rift Valley. Then if you go to western Kenya again, you have the Lake Victoria, which is the second largest body mass of water in the world. And if you go to the north, you've got Lake Turkana again, which is also very scenic. So I would say that for somebody who's never been to Kenya, there's a lot that you can see in this country.
Tourism is by far the largest single foreign currency earner for the Kenyan economy, and it is a major employer.
Tourism is something that is big for us. It's the largest employer at the Kenya coast, with almost 100,000 people employed directly and indirectly. And every single tourist coming down to the coast is believed is creating 5 to 6 jobs. So that's something you cannot underrate. So tourism is key for us.
On the other side of the coin, tourism has its problems, from a lack of funding to piracy along the east coast of Africa.
There was a significant drop in terms of cruise arrivals because if you look at this year alone, we had only registered about 508 as against 12,000 and slightly over 12,000 last year. Now that obviously means that there was a drop of almost 95% in terms of cruise arrivals, and this is mainly attributed to the piracy of the East African coast. And this has obviously affected tourism arrivals by cruise into this country.
So while Britain's royals gear up for the wedding of the decade, Kenya's tourist industry is hoping to cash in on the reflected glory.